tonight, Thursday, June 26th, 2025, at the Cumberland High School Transition Building at 7:11 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Consent agenda. Approval of minutes for regular meeting 6/12/2025, executive session meeting 6/12/2025, special emergency executive session meeting 6/11/2025, special emergency open meeting 6/11/2025, special executive session meeting 6/18/2025, and special open meeting for 6/18/2025. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Shea.
Second.
Second by Ms. Feather. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 7-0. Report out of executive session meeting. Report out of executive session meeting on 6/26/2025. Report out of executive session votes. There were no votes taken. Vote to seal minutes of executive session. Can I have a motion to seal the minutes?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Goldstein.
Second.
Second by Ms. Feather. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
That passes 6-1 with Mr. Dean in the negative. Personnel announcements. Ms. Drezek.
Hi, good evening. I have 2 resignations and 6 appointments this evening. Resignations are both effective 6/30/2025. Alexis Gabriel, paraprofessional at BF Norton, and Kimberly Graziano, math essentials at North Cumberland Middle School. We have appointments, 2 of them effective 8/27/2025. Lily Lepardo, math essentials at McCourt, and Lauren Tatro, school psychologist district-wide. We have an appointment effective 8/28/2025, Nicole Amonde, paraprofessional at Garvin School. Appointment effective 7/7/2025, Mario Estrella, custodian nights at Community. Effective July 1st, 2025, Deborah Forgay, custodian nights BF Norton. And the appointment effective 7/7/2025, William Barstow, a district support technician.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Superintendent's report, Dr. Thornton.
Good evening. First, we have a big shout out to, take it away, Mike, Karen Arsenal, a parent at Garvin. She painted this fantastic mural at Garvin over the past several months, donated all of her time, all the materials. And if you look at it closely, it kind of mirrors the opening day for Garvin, how they start their day with their pledge. We had a little ceremony for her. It was on June 13th during Field Day. Just a great mural. If you walk in, it's before you turn left or right at Garvin, going past the main office. It's just fantastic work. So you should go by sometime and check that out. Next up, we have one retirement. I'm going to call up Mike Chandler, a man of many words, to talk about the one retiring.
Good evening, everyone. Jamie intended on being here this evening, but something came up just recently, and he had to cancel. But he was looking forward to coming to get his bag, so we'll be sure that he gets that in the morning. If he's watching tonight, then he can watch that. He can see what he has and what else we have to say. I'd like to take the time to congratulate Jamie and wish him the very best on his retirement. He's been here for 15 years. He was actually the 3rd person that we hired in the department. There was just the 2 of us. The 3rd one with Jamie took about 6 months or so to get here. So that was a little bit of time. But in the end, Jamie's always been the kind of person that you could ask him to do anything. He'd get moving on it right away, no matter what the task was, no matter what the time was. He was always ready to lend a hand, make himself available. It's truly appreciated for the things that we do in the district with him. On behalf of all of us, thank you for the 15 years of service. We wish you all the best in your retirement. May it be filled with warmer locations, some relaxation, more grandbabies, destinations, and places that he hasn't been yet. Enjoy your retirement, Jamie.
All right. And next up, just a few thoughts on construction, if we could, Mike. So here at Community Schools, to show you the glass and how it's different. This is the thickness of the new glass we're putting in, so it's way different than the old windows at Community. Here they are, the new windows in, the new banks of windows. Here's the inside view of the folks installing the windows. Just a huge improvement. The windows really make the building pop Next up, some new cabinets in the office area. We have the doors going in the front door main entrance and the new man trap area. That is the main office desk going in, and the whiteboards came in today. Whiteboards are in, being installed. And also upper right corner, used to be a wall here. That was the wall where the preschool began, and now the wall's down, and we're now down the hall renovating the 4 classrooms that were occupied all this year. On the left, some detail work, some code base going in, new floor going in. That was the old kitchen at Community. That's what it looks like now. And that's in the lower old cafeteria. That's the cabinets down there just installed. Over here, some nice features in the hallway. Some built-ins are going in, and the doors came in. The new doors are also in. So right now, I think this past week, I saw probably 15, 20 men running around Community. It's really picking up speed. Next up, that's the elevator shaft. It's completed. Elevator's going in. Here we have a completed bathroom, and here we have one of the old preschool rooms or K rooms that's now being renovated. And here another new floor went in just a little while ago. Next. Now moving on, as I told you last time, a lot of jobs this summer, probably our busiest summer ever. This is middle school science. Years ago, back in the first bond, there was money put aside to fix the middle school science room. 6 rooms per building, 6 in McCourt, 6 in North. This is how the state of the science labs, probably circa 1970, right? How it looks, that's what we're replacing. That's what it looks like at McCourt right now. That's the before. Right now we're in demo mode. I can't show you the after just yet. Here we have one of the rooms being demoed. Here we have North. North had more of these stations. They had gas back then in middle school science. Gas is no longer a thing for middle school. We don't have gas going in, just power and water. But that's all being taken out at North as well. Second playground, well underway. Garvin here. It's all being ready to receive now the rubber surfaces and just the final touches. Then they're on to Ashton. So probably another 6-7 days at Garvin. Then they're done. Move on to Ashton. Also at the high school, we're doing lighting retrofits. We have old fluorescent lighting with the help of Tim in National Grid, Rhode Island Energy, excuse me. We have a plan to replace the lighting, and it's really no cost to us out of our pocket. Here are the old lights. Here are the holes. Here's what it looks like when it's put in. The entire footprint is being redone with lighting. And that's it from me. That's for later on. I'll stop here.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, reports of standing committees. Fiscal Management Subcommittee update. Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Fiscal Subcommittee did meet earlier this evening, and we had a very large agenda. We had different bids that were out that had come in and proposals for new contracts with our before and after school care, with our photography for all schools. We also had another one, the pool renovation occurring. And we also had Chartwells at the meeting to give their monthly update. So there was quite a bit going on. And we do have a lot of resolutions to go over. So I'm going to hold those until later, and then also payment of the bills because we didn't have enough to do this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Policy and Procedures Subcommittee update. Ms. Feather?
The Policy and Procedures Subcommittee met earlier this week, and we have a few policies that have been amended to present tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Feather. Achievement and Communications Subcommittee update. There is no update. District Health and Wellness Subcommittee update. Ms. Shea?
There's no update, but we're going to be meeting in September.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. Next, public hearing, reading of amended policies. E2 Transportation. Ms. Feather?
Alrighty, so we've got a few things for amended policies. E2, transportation, just some edits made to that, and also actually I think we'll be talking about that later under new business, right? That's when I talk about it. Or do I talk about it now? I'm very confused. Yeah, I'm just reading them into the record right now, I think, right? Yeah. So, and then K2, the use of school facilities, including facilities applications. We made some edits to that to include the town a little bit more. And again, I'll be able to go through these in depth when we're voting on them. And the G6 personnel benefit policy, there's just some housekeeping that had to be done with those and with that one, so we'll be doing that a little bit later too.
Great, thank you, Ms. Feather. Is there public comment regarding those 3 policies? Any public comment for those 3 policies? Okay. Now, comments from the public. Is there any comments from the public in general? Okay, thank you. Old business, discussion and/or vote to approve 2025, 2026 start and end times, including bus fleet and budget implications. Dr. Thornton?
Thank you, and as I start, just with a few remarks, we have, once again, as you know, Tracy and Mike here, and also we have the entire Durham team. I'll have them come up to the podium as well while I start just talking about this. If you guys could go up, and we'll introduce the entire Durham team at the podium. So as they go up, I'll just have a few thoughts. At your places, you have Model A, Model B, right? 2 different models. Model A is the one I gave you last time. Models B, what you asked me to look at with the team. Couple of thoughts before I go to the Durham folks and to Tracy and Mike. When we had this model, we did have 2 more large buses than we have now. We have 227 more kids now than we had then. We have 60 more kids in special education programs now than we did then. We have 5 elementaries now with specialized programs. We had 4 back then, right? Community is that new program, right, starting in the fall. I do know sometimes people will kind of forget this, but Ms. Smith won't forget. We were often late back in the day when we had the schedule, so that's something to think about. Even when we did it, it wasn't perfect. We were late, but just to have that in your mind. In my mind, it does still go back to it's a math problem. Number of buses, times, bus stops, final destinations. Some good news. We do know through the help of Mario Carino, there is a reimbursement from Mount St. Charles. If we use statewide next year, that could take $40,000 off the equation, whatever you do. So that's a good thing. And that was from Mario. That's very helpful. At the end of the day, though, it looks like to us at the 100,000-foot view, it's 150K to 300 if you do the model you were contemplating last time. And I have 2 questions to start things off with the team, and then you guys can certainly, have at it. So team, I don't know who wants the first question, but we have a visual on the screen, Mike. Can you put the visual up? This is a screenshot, not that. There you go. This is a screenshot of like some of the machinations Durham does and our team do. On every line there is a bus. On the left, it's our current world, and there is some red's not good, green is good. So you can see sometimes we have a little bit of red on our current world. That might be a BF Norton student transporting to community for a specialized program, that kind of thing. On the right is the first blush of contemplating the times that we were looking at as another option last time. So I guess I just have one question for the team. So if we're just talking about shifting the L's 15 and the middles, why can't we just do that? What's the problem or the big problem? High school's still the same time, right? Pushing the L's and the middles down, that 15 or 20. What is causing all that red at the start of that on the right there? Who wants that one?
I'll start, and then Kelly can take over. So the red that we're seeing on that side, so the first school is the high school, and the high school time is not changing, but we are having the middle school go in a little bit earlier. So now what you're seeing is that we are still dropping off at the high school when we are supposed to already be picking up the middle school students. That's why you have that conflict with the reds over there.
Okay. Well, I have one more question while I have you. So I mentioned Mount St. Charles, right? So is that bus now totally free or half free? What happens if we don't have Mount on our docket? What happens to that bus?
We've been using that bus for one of our elementary school. Basically, if you have students that are supposed to go to another school besides the district of residence, that's the bus that is allowing us to be out there and pick up that student and take him to and from school.
So I have more thoughts, but I want to wait, let you guys kind of have at it, and then I have a couple of remarks near the end, but if you guys want to ask questions to the team or myself.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
While you're thinking, I
Ms.
have a
Smith.
few, I
Oh,
can say
sorry.
something if you want. My first thought on this, obviously, is, and it's no secret, our budget is tight. I'm not sure I can know where to put 150,000 if you wanted to do this. If it was on a low side, let's say, we don't know it's low, but say it was, it'd be fund balance, which I wouldn't recommend you do. One idea you could do is you could budget money in the 26 budget for a study to do the boundaries and the buses when you change the BF Norton equation. That's going to change a lot of things. Woonsocket did it with a company, and they were about 130K. We're smaller than that, so probably not as much. Also, I do know RIDE has a relationship with the same company, so I'm not sure if there's maybe some kind of ability to get like a, a better rate. But if you do go to the right model and want to do it, we would have to, figure out the budget and then authorize Durham to spend probably 6 to 8 weeks to route it. It takes that kind of time, so to give you a sense of it.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, did you have a question?
I'm just going to start with the easy ones first, money. So you have here where you anticipate it'll be 150,000 to 300,000, so that's up to 3 buses. Am I understanding that correctly? Because we're looking at the 95,000 range per bus?
85 for a big, is that fair, Mr. McGrath?
Yeah, 90 to 90, yeah.
It's 5.230 for a regular bus per day, and for a small bus, it's 7.253 per day.
Right. So
Small
we're going to
buses,
gain.
sorry, small buses cost more, AC, lift, all those special features, that's why they cost more.
Right, and we knew that.
Monitor for the small buses ourselves.
Right. So when we look at this, I mean, we're looking at 40,000, half a bus, half a year, whatever you want to call it, half a bus savings from the Mount St. Charles. Of course, I'm going to ask, is there any way to go back to Mario and speak to him? Why can't we get the same thing for the nonprofit Mercy Mount School that we're getting for kickback from the state? So that's one question.
McGrath probably has that one, or Tracy has that one.
Okay.
We actually asked that question. Mercy Mount is within Cumberland, so it's only out-of-district schools, like parochial schools, that are within our district of RIDE. So it's Woonsocket, North Smithfield, Burrville, and Cumberland. So those 4 towns are the only one, but because Mercy Mount is in Cumberland, we have to pay for that. They won't reimburse us.
Okay. Do we do depot stops for Mercy Mount?
Do not do depot stops for Mercy Mount.
Right. So one, I'm going to ask you to start looking at depot stops for Mercy Mount. If we're going to get the money from Mount St. Charles back, then fine. But if it's going to free up busing to get these depots and to find a way to combine those 2 schools somehow and shorten the use of the buses, I still would strongly urge us to really look at that. The other one is, when saying 150 to 300,000, when we negotiated last year and when we went through all of it, when we were going through redistricting and I tore apart the buses, we found that we had an extra bus that wasn't being used, yet that number was in our budget. And you did ask that we allow that to stay in and stay as a spare. So that's already been part of the budget, and my understanding is we're not using that bus this year, but it's still in the budget. So do we carry that over for the next year's budget, and can we take that amount off? And thank you, Mr. McGrath.
The fiscal budget that you've passed includes the current runs projected forward, so there's no extra buses in the budget, no additional money in that line. It's taking the number of buses we're billed for, multiplied by the new rates across the minis and the large buses, so there's no spare buses in those lines.
Okay, because this year I know we kept it in the
Correct.
budget, but
Correct.
so next year is not in the budget.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Smith? Yes, Ms. Goldstein?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you, because I know that there's been a lot of questions, I've asked a lot of questions, and I know people have done an enormous amount of work to try to figure this out for us, so thank you. One of the few questions I have is that, so Community last year had the PALS program, not last year, 2 years ago. They had the PALS program. That moved over to Ashton when they moved over to the transitional building, so they did not have specific special education program while at the transitional building. I understand that when they go back to their home school, there's going to be a new specialized program. So I'm wondering about what happened. Were the kids that were students of the PALS program, were they bused separately? And what happened to that bus for them? And is that something that we are now adding back in? Or, I don't know if that question makes sense, but. Is that bus, so it feels like we lost a bus at community, but how are we re-adding that bus, or is that a new bus, or is that new in the budget?
So we didn't really lose a bus, so the program that was at community just moved over to Ashton. So now that bus goes to Ashton instead of community. So this next year, we'll have another program at community school. A lot of those kids, I believe, I don't know, are coming from the preschool, going in, and then a couple from like other parts of town. So we'll just use the fleet that we have now to get those, hopefully to get those kids to school. I think a lot of them don't require specialized transportation, so we may be able to use, if they're in the area of community, be able to use a regular ed bus to get the kids to school instead of a mini. If that makes, does that, okay.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Ms. Feather?
So I hadn't been aware that minibuses cost more than the standard buses. How many minibuses do we have versus standard buses? And are all of those minibuses necessary for people with special needs? Or because I know, and I know this is a long-winded question, sorry, but I know that several years ago, we had asked the question about can we, start to have smaller buses in order to try to save money? So I'm just kind of confused about that. So I'm asking, is,
So
do
first,
we
we have,
need
we have
every?
25 big buses, and we use 10 minis. And the
Okay.
minis go from high school all the way down to the preschool. So, and then preschool, they do morning, they do a mid-run to get the kids home from morning and the kids in for the afternoon, then they do an afternoon run. So the mini buses are used all day.
Are those all for specialized, students with specialized needs, or are they used when we have less students?
No, they're used for either specialized needs, or if a student, say for instance, lives across town and has to go to, like we had a student who lived over in the Cumberland Hill district, but there was no room at North for them, so we had to bus them to McCourt, and there was a minibus in the area, so we put that student on the minibus.
So, but it's one, okay. I'm just
But
wondering.
the majority of the bus is used for students with specialized transportation accommodation needs.
So that one student is on with other students?
Yes. Yet the student wouldn't have been on the bus alone. We have a lot of students who go from across town because of a program and have to be bused to either McCourt. We have students who come from Cumberland Hill that go to BF Norton because of a program, or BF Norton up to Cumberland Hill or Ashton. So the minibuses kind of go, and they go to neighborhoods. Like, for instance, we have a bus that goes up Tower Hill Road because we can't get a large bus up Tower Hill Road. So we have to use a mini for high school all the way down to community school to get the kids off Tower Hill Road.
And the only two types of buses available are the large buses or the specialized minibuses, which have all those special needs. There aren't, I'm just going to use the term like vans or anything like that. There aren't any other options except for the super expensive or regular priced. Is there anything in between? That's what I'm asking, Durham.
I think one of the things that we're not taking into consideration is that the fact that the minibus includes the monitor. The big buses monitor are employed by.
I'm aware. I'm just wondering if there's any, is there any bus in between? Any other type of bus?
Yes, there is other type of bus. You can get, for example, what we call a Type C special need bus. It's a little bit smaller than a full-size bus. It may hold more students, but again, it
I'm-
all depends on what the district needs.
Yeah, my question is really just that, again, this is the first time I'm hearing that a minibus costs 700 and something per, per day, and a regular bus costs less than that. I assumed it was the other way around. So, my brain is now going to, is there anything in between? Is there like a $600 bus? So that we could also utilize. How much are the vans?
I want to say the vans are $400 or $500, but what we're discovering is the efficiency in a van is not anywhere near the bigger buses, seeing as they hold between 6 and 8 students. It's much more efficient to run the minibus and use since we're already paying, remember, you pay for the day. So it's much more efficient to use those minibuses than it is to pay for the van. To pick up only 6 or 8 kids, they're just not as efficient when we looked at the overall picture of it.
How many kids does the minibus seat?
23.
23.
So the vans are really only effective on out of district, so.
Any other questions? I just want to make sure I'm recapping correctly, that there's 2 proposals, the one from the original meeting, and then tonight's option B. With option B, they moved all elementaries 15 minutes earlier, all middles 20 minutes earlier, but kept high school at the same time. And with that option, you bump in high school drop-off with middle school pickup, and that causes the red. Okay. So then you would need possibly two additional buses at 85,000, Carrie? 92,000, which is 184,000. However, 40,000 back from Mount St. Charles is what I'm hearing, which is 142.
Only I would say is, we just don't know the exact number. It could be, that's why we ballpark 150 to 300. Until they run the routes and spend weeks doing this, that's the best case.
Yeah,
Best case,
yes.
2 bigs minus the rebate, best case.
So 142,000 best case costs to the district. Okay. And, okay, I just want to make sure that I'm recapping this correctly. Anything I'm missing?
No, just if you did go with option A, I would recommend you do investigate putting money in the budget for the boundary study and routing, because that would be
So kind of combine it into one, so we're dealing with this all at one time versus 2 separate occasions. Okay, understand. Ms. Smith?
If we're going to look at it that's 2 years away from implementation. So to tie this, excuse me, to the redistricting still has impact on our 3 later elementaries, that there's no doubt the impact that that's happening to the students and their families. So, that's the toughest part of this, is how to balance everything. I did have a question, though. No, I don't remember.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I
And we
I
could always
did- I
look
did have
at
a
the
question.
busing earlier if need be. I think nothing's set in stone, so I think we have some flexibility. Doesn't necessarily have to be in 2 years, but.
My question is a legal question, I remembered,
Okay.
if I could. And it could be for our legal counsel. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez, or Dr. Thornton, I'm not quite sure. RIDE requires us to have busing in place. We can set the mileage or the walking distance, but we are required to make sure that anybody outside the scope of our walking distance has a place on a bus, whether they take that place or they don't take that place. And as we're finding out since COVID, a lot of places are empty. And is there anything that we can do at this point to try to get some type of, hey, if you're going to opt out and you're not going to use the bus, let us know so that we can start consolidating?
I think the only challenge is, as a parent, I could opt out in September and then opt back in October.
Yeah, I think it gets complicated because you still have that obligation to provide suitable transportation to that student. So one good example could be maybe at the beginning of the school year, the family lived in a neighborhood where, at a location where it was convenient and the student didn't need transportation, but maybe 3 months later they move and now they need a bus. And you can't abdicate your responsibility. You as a committee can't abdicate that responsibility to provide that, so.
Yeah,
think
and I
it's a
guess I
little
want to know
difficult.
legally, can we approach RIDE to say we would like to put some type of waiver program in place in our town and set a structure to that? Can we do that, and will RIDE allow something? Would they give us approval to do that? Or are they going to say, no, we don't even, we have blinders on, we're not going to look at that, and this is what you have to do?
So my answer to that is we can I can't say P's apparently. We can pose questions to RIDE. I know RIDE offers things like variances for districts. However, I think it's a matter of first impression, and I don't have a concrete answer to that. We would just have to pose the question to RIDE legal counsel. No more P's for me.
Mr. Dean, then Mr. Bacon? Did you? Mr. Dean, Ms. Goldstein, Mr. Bacon.
So along the lines of have to provide the student a position, you know, and the fact that you said that if the student wants to opt back in, I mean, that would kind of be the same as if a student moved into a neighborhood, we'd have to provide them. So, you know, my son hasn't used the bus the entire time he was in high school. My other son didn't either, and it was only because of the age of the kids that live in the neighborhood. They all drive. My older son graduated, but he drove his entire senior year. Are we providing buses for those kids that drive to school as well?
I'll let Tracy answer that, how we roster that.
It's anyone outside of the walking distance is rostered for a bus. And we have had, like, if a couple years, when I first started, we had a student who wasn't using the bus, and they were driving themselves to school, and then something happened with the car, then they needed to get back on the bus. And we were like, you're already rostered, so you can just ride whenever you want.
Okay, yeah. So that is also mandated by RIDE, that, wow. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Goldstein?
I guess my questions are a little more sort of budget specific. Because thinking about sort of playing this forward, so let's say, let's go with the amended times. Do we have a sense of, I know last budget workshop, we had talked a little bit about that there was no news on federal funding, our grants, and I'm just wondering if there's been an update on that piece of things.
Yeah, so at this time, RIDE has given us an allocation, not an actual. I do have major concerns about IDEA title. They're all coming in, their allocations are lower than what we're currently getting. So for example, IDEA is approximately $100,000 lower than what's currently. If that holds true, the general fund is going to have to pick up one position due to the lack of federal funding. So I do have major concerns. I am hopeful that when the allocations do come out, this is unprecedented. We've never seen this before. Normally this is all figured out in February, March, April. So this puts us in a little bit of a bind. But if that IDA number does hold true, you know, we have no choice but to pick up that position in the general fund, because we would not expect to see a $100,000 decrease in IDA funding. That's kind of unheard of. So I am concerned at this time, because we're also seeing it in the titles as well. So if you do add buses, then you could be adding positions. You could see yourself $500,000 of additional fund balance just based on, you know, adding busing and adding these title jobs that need to be added now. So.
Thank you. Oh, Ms. Goldstein.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Thank you. So that is my next question, is so playing that out, thinking about, I think there's lots of us that are really hearing what people are saying about the loss of learning in, you know, with those late times and sort of that slow leak of learning at the end of the day. But the thing that I also am concerned about is, you know, when we do it, you know, how sustainable will it be? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? I would hate to see something that we put into place that needs to change. So I guess I'm asking for sort of thoughts on, is it sustainable? How sustainable do you see that being in the future if we made made that addition?
I could start and go to Tim. As you recall from our workshops, we said we've been using fund balance to balance things past couple of years. It was 5 million. We used 2.2, 1.2 this year. We had said we can do that one more time next year for 26, 27. But for the following year, we won't use that again. So in 2 years' time, not this next budget, the one after that, we have a problem. We can no longer use fund balance. And this would be a casualty of that if you're spending more.
I'm so sorry. So do we anticipate, so thinking about, I know that some of the conversation has been about when the new BF comes online and the redistricting and looking at bus routes at that point, are we anticipating, I guess, if we were to wait until that, what is it that we anticipate is going to be different fiscally to potentially make that more of a possibility?
I'm not sure I answered the question.
If we were to wait on looking at the bus routes, changing the times for the elementary schools to make them earlier, the later schools earlier, we're talking about if we waited until BF came online, do we anticipate anything different that would allow those earlier elementary school times to happen? I think there's I just hear a lot of, we're waiting, and people have been waiting for 2 years. We'd be asking them to wait for 4 years.
I can start, then I'll go to the team. As far as the word different, I think you'd see more buses at BF, because now you'd have not just the walking zone BF, you'd have kids being bused to BF. We'll be adding buses to BF Norton. I'm not sure part two of the question, as far as what will be different about going earlier for the Ls. Anyone?
The only thing I wanted to add, fiscally, the hope is that, remember, $3 million of this budget goes down the street to Blackstone Valley Prep. If we're able to pull those students back, that could be a dramatic swing in the budget. That's the hope. You have 175 more seats down there. If you're able to pull a lot of those kids back, that will make a dramatic difference in this budget. So,
Mr. Bacon?
Thank you. So, as we have this discussion, I keep going back to, in my mind, that we have seen that happen with Lincoln, to the statement that you just made about them doing a poll and finding out that later start times affected students to where they made the decision to go back to BVP or in other schools, because it, after school care or before school care, these are late times, and it does not help for anybody. It doesn't help anyone. So I do believe that if we were to go with this new proposed one, to go back to the old times, it would benefit, and we would see kids back from those schools, improving our budget. Also, again, speaking with the principals and the teachers, and we heard last week that there was a statement made that this is why they can't get substitute teachers. This is why we even have trouble with teachers in elementary schools, because they don't get home until 5:30, almost 6 o'clock some days. So, I mean, that being said, I think we need to do the right thing, and we need to listen to what the teachers and what would be better for our constituents here in town. And I make a motion that we go with option B, to go with the earlier times and take the risk.
Ms. Feather had a...
Oh, I'm sorry.
So how would it work? Would we do the motion then, Ms. Feather? 'Cause I'm just... Okay. Got it. So motion by Mr. Bacon to go with option B. Do I have a second?
I'll second for option B.
Second by Mr. Dean with discussion, and now I'm going to go to Ms. Feather for discussion.
So, I actually want to go to these times. I don't think we've actually asked any real questions about the times. So we went from option A, I know this is kind of way down the road here, but option A, where we had, the late schools that were starting at 9:15 and the early schools starting at 8:30. We went and shifted everything. So we shifted to, everything by 15 minutes. I know that in the previous meeting, we had asked a question about shifting things even 5 minutes. What was the reasoning that we went with the 15-minute blocks and shifting everybody with the, everybody earlier?
My impression was that was the direction of the committee to do the 15, unless I got that wrong. I think I heard you to say go the 15, so we have to be modeled.
Any other discussion? Yes. Oh, sorry. Dr. Thornton, then Ms. Shea.
Sure, I would just say, should you do this, our next item is budget amendment. You'd have to amend the budget to pay for this. And I would at a minimum amend it for the low side, knowing that we could come back to you in August and say we need another $120,000. So it could be an up to number. I'm not sure how we'd budget that, Tim, but at least it would be the low end. And I don't know what you would cut to do this. It would be fund balance.
Thank you. Ms. Shea?
I do have a question about the minibus monitors. Just how much does that typically cost? And then what is the cost for the large bus monitors, if that makes sense?
So the school department provides monitors for the large buses. I think they get $18 an hour. And then, I don't know what.
And that's Durham pays for that? Okay.
$28.65 per quarter hour, and we pay $18 an hour for our monitors. Wouldn't it be cost effective for us to actually just provide those monitors?
I think they're specially trained because they have to deal with the harnesses and the star seats and the wheelchair hookups and.
Okay, it just appears that there could be some cost savings that we could look into. Just because I'm hearing a lot of figures that I hadn't heard before. And how much do you do provide bus monitors for regular buses, or don't? You do not?
I think we're in a contract, so I'm not sure if we can
Okay.
change prices, is my understanding. I could be wrong. Is all of this in the contract? Yes. Sorry, Tracy.
That's okay. And I can tell you, for us, we have a hard time hiring monitors. I no sooner hire one and I have 2 quit, or they go out for medical leave. So this past year, we were down 10 to 12 for the year. And that's, since I've been here, that's pretty much what we're down, about 10. And I try to put them on the buses that service 2 elementary schools, but there's sometimes I just don't have them to put on.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the members? Dr. Thornton?
Just in doing the math in my head quick, if you do go with this and say we do the 150 in the budget, the next item, your fund balance is now like 135. If IDEA comes in low, you're at 145. If Title II comes in low, another 80 grand, you're 153. So it gets pretty scary pretty quickly.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Of course.
Sorry. The crossing guards, do Durham pay that or we pay that? And how much?
I
Sorry.
think they make $28.62 an hour, and they all work half an hour a shift, except for at McCourt, they do 45 minutes in the morning and then half an hour in the afternoon.
And do you know how many we have throughout the district? I'm sorry. Roughly?
I want to say 12.
Okay.
And then I also, back to what Mr. Dean had asked, we do try to add, anytime we can, if there's space available, we add walkers to the bus. Last year, we added, I want to say 100, a little over 100 to any bus that had space available. So if there's an open spot, after about 3 weeks, a month into school, we can add walkers so that we have more ridership.
Ms. Shea? Okay, Ms. Smith, then Ms. Shea.
I just want to clarify, though, those spots, we have to maintain a spot on every bus for anybody who is not a walker. That is our issue. And that's why I was asking if we could talk and maybe petition RIDE. I know that it's a big issue across the state. I know that people are talking to the General Assembly about this because there's no funding that's taking care of this issue, and we need to find solutions. Some school districts are saying it's the bus department and whoever you have under contract for the bus, they don't know what they're doing. We know here in Cumberland that's not the case. We've seen the maps. We've seen the work that goes into everything that you do. We know that. We see what Mr. Chandler does and what Mrs. Walton does and what Dr. Thornton has done and what the committee members up here sitting in subcommittees have done. So, we're doing everything we can. We need to come up with something else to do now. And it's difficult because I think that the losses that we're having what Mr. Bacon said is accurate. And we sit here and we have to weigh our responsibilities on the finance, but we have to weigh our responsibilities to students. And that's where we're at. And we've got to come up with something. We've got to look for people to advocate and help to find other solutions, because I'm not quite sure impacting the students another year is what we can do.
Ms. Shea, then Mr., you had something, Ms. Shea? And then Mr. Dean.
I do agree with Mr. Bacon and Mr. Dean that we definitely should move forward with this. I'm currently at a crossroads thinking the longevity of our middle schoolers that do walk, pushing them up even just 15 minutes, especially in the winter. It's darker in the mornings, and it's, especially down in District 1, there's not a lot of busing currently right now. That's opening us up to accidents that could be avoided. And I think also, too, the difficulty that working parents have, especially if they're coming from a single-parent household, bumping those kids up at the middle school level. We all know that they all like to use technology, so I'm concerned that maybe they're going to be going to bed a little bit later, which would just cause a little bit more increased fatigue and irritability and maybe issues with attention spans. And I think that would kind of just follow suit when it comes down to the middle school friends, too. But I do see the need and the demand of more busing, especially in Valley Falls, and I'm sure in other districts as well. So as much as I want to say I'm completely committed, I'm in a crossroads right now on my decision.
Mr. Dean?
So was it the last meeting or the meeting before that we got the ride waiver for the school days? Last meeting? So I while we were talking, I looked it up, and RIDE offers a lot of waivers for a lot of different things. Maybe we could craft the request for a waiver for the 1 seat per kid as a committee, send it into them, and that hopefully, the seniors, at least at the high school, the seniors are a quarter of the class almost, right? A little less maybe. And there are some sophomores that juniors rather, that maybe we could allow to opt out when they get their license. My son will have his license next year as a junior. So I think that would be a good way to go, but I do think that we have to rip the Band-Aid off and, hopefully get some students back. But, one of the justifications for the fact that we would need more buses, or had more buses, was that we got more students into the district. We have to budget for more buses if we get more students. If somebody moves from Attleboro to here and we get an extra, $13,000 or whatever it is per kid, we have to put that money aside for the busing as well.
Any other discussion? Okay, I am going to take a roll call roll. So what is on, it was Option B, motion by Mr. Bacon, second by Mr. Dean. Yay for option B or nay? Michelle? Okay. Mr. Dean? Yay?
Yay.
Nay?
No, I was, yes. Oh, you said nay.
I said nay. I'm so sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Wait. Sorry. Yay, yay, nay?
Yay.
Yay? Sorry.
I know what I want to do. I am scared about the financial impact, so nay.
What'd you say? I'm sorry. Michelle? Mhm.
I definitely want to find out about those waivers that Mr. Dean was just talking about. I am concerned also about the financial background of it. Can I do a timeout?
I think you,
I'll say yay.
option B passes 5-2 with Ms. Goldstein and the chair in the negative. Thank you. Ms. Smith?
I really want to help. I really want to do what we can and come up with ideas. I know this is going to be difficult. I know that you've spent a lot of time already looking at this and how difficult it's going to be for all of you, but there are a few of us up here that would love to sit on committees and see things and help out and come up with ideas and get these things written so we can get it into RIDE or contact our General Assembly. You know, there's a few of us that are offering to be part of that, like we did with subcommittees when we were redistricting. I think this is a case where we are not overstepping our boundary. We're not telling you how to do things. We're just offering a hand on a very difficult thing that has to happen in a quick time.
Next, oh, I'm so sorry.
So just to orient you, as I understand it, it would be approximately 6 to 8 weeks, and we'd be working with Durham to operationalize this and come back to you.
And when does, so 6 to 8, just so I have my calendar correct in my head, that brings us up to the
We're in August. We're coming back to you in August.
the week before school, correct?
I mean, I'll defer to Durham, but I know in the contract it says 6 to 8 weeks to model any changes. So Durham, what are your thoughts on coming back to us with a final product? How many weeks do you figure?
So I'm hearing you, one second. I'm hearing you say it's going to be minimum 8 weeks to route these, route. Is it, that's kind of, okay. Ms. Feather?
Do we actually maintain a list of registering, maintain a list of students who need buses versus not? And if we do, I'm just looking at a couple of the laws. I'm looking stuff up, you know? But if I understand that we need to provide a seat for every student, right? And that we're required to provide a seat for every student. That being said, if we had a registry on there and then could supplement with vans if people added themselves to it midway through the year or something, I'm just trying to help, trying to come up with a solution. Would that violate any laws if we basically register? I'm trying to think about how I'm trying to say this. Allowed students or allowed parents to sign students up for the bus, and we base our busing numbers off of that, or are we required to say we have 1,500 students? I'm just making up the number. and 1,500 students, we need to actually allow for that number of students on the buses. Like, what is the law? What is the requirement? That's the law?
So your responsibility is to ensure that you have suitable transportation that can facilitate getting kids to and from school if they are outside of that walking distance. It doesn't dictate, the law doesn't dictate you need to use the big buses, mini buses, vans. It doesn't dictate with that specificity. There is case law within commissioners' hearing decisions. So parents usually who have appealed a decision of a superintendent that has denied transportation that a family has requested. And there's some good information there about what is suitable and what isn't. But there's no specificity as to how a school has to operationalize that. There's definitely wiggle room for a district to operationalize that in the way that makes sense for the district.
Thank you. Dr. Thornton?
Going back to the calendar, quick kind of my calendar math, around August 22nd is when 8 weeks is. I know parents typically would get information before that, fair to say, or right around that time. So that's around 8 weeks.
Okay, so August 22nd would be the timeline we're going for to get the information out to families, approximately. Mr. Bacon?
I just want to have maybe an idea of, in the achievement committee, maybe we can meet and we could create some sort of a class where students could maybe enroll in some sort of a class and maybe be a crossing guard or something to that nature, and it could count towards credits, towards graduation or something.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
We do hire high school students to be monitors. I have all the crossing guards I need, but I do need bus monitors. I had, I think, 4 this year that just did after school. And then during, after high school gets out, then a little bit earlier than the elementary. So if it was a senior, they could do a couple weeks after that.
Thank you. Ma'am, did you have something?
Hesitant, because I'm not good at public speaking. But I wish I had looked a little closer. I thought that was the same information that we had gotten last week after your meeting. But there's additional information in here that is the bus roll times that's on this sheet. So when you look at North or McCourt, you have an end time, an end of the school time, bell time of 2:15. So obviously the kids, the bell rings, they go to their lockers, they chat with their friends, they go out to the buses. It takes a good 10 minutes before that bus rolls. So by the time they roll from North at 2:25, now we're going to ask them to be at BF or Garvin for 2:40. So we're talking 15 minutes to leave North, drop off those students, and then move on, get to the next school. Now that won't happen in a perfect world. Never mind in an imperfect world where kids, you got to go back to the school because so-and-so forgot to get on the bus.
So what So what I'm hearing you say, but option A is the same time.
It not for North.
North would get out by 2:45 and BF.
2:15.
2:35 and 2:36.
I'm so sorry. I may be.
I'm looking at your B.
Yep.
2:15.
Yep.
When the buses are going to roll around 2:25. That bell rings at 2:15.
Yep. I agree. And I
Mr.
think-
Chandler, can you put up the other one, the previous option? Because this is what I think you're saying, that it's
Yeah,
only a
but what I'm
minute.
saying is
Yeah.
the time difference between that 2:45 to 2:56, I hear what you're saying.
Same amount of time.
It's the same 9 minutes, or excuse me, 11 minutes? Wait, no. I
It's
can't.
1 minute difference.
Yes.
So 2:35 and then a roll time of 2:36 to 2:45 versus 2:15 and a roll time of 2:16 to 2:25. So you're still only accounting for 1 minute.
And we were asking for more time, but we had spoken to Tracy, Mike,
Oh,
and
well.
Phil. We were looking, we're saying this is too tight.
So you meant for either option, that amount of time was too tight?
Correct.
Got it, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
That's fine.
Yeah, I misunderstood too.
Again, I think I love the idea of a collaboration, by the way, because there's a lot of pieces to this. There's buses that are super overcrowded because we have kids, well, not overcrowded, but packed, because we have kids in different areas, especially down in District 1, where there's a lot more need for busing. But we also have kids that come over from the Central Falls area, that come to Cumberland, that are difficult to identify in that area. We can't tell, if people don't have an ID card. Would love to see each student have an ID card with their bus number on it, so that we know they're getting on the right buses. We have the athletics portion of this program, which has a big impact on the elementary and second and, third, we call it third and fourth tier elementaries, because the middle school and high school want to use some of those buses to go for athletics. Understood, athletics versus education, two different pots. And then we have the preschool times. And the math just doesn't work. I mean, I understand where you're saying, but I'm just, I don't know that it's feasible. And I think it's unfortunate that we didn't have a further discussion and perhaps put more proposals on the table and investigate it further next year.
All right, thank you for that, I appreciate it. Dr. Thornton, Ms. Smith, Ms. Shea.
So to make the math work, I'm assuming you would propose more buses to fix the math.
Would have to be.
It would have to be more buses.
And the preschool, it becomes between the third and the fourth tier, it's like a 3.5 tier. So that's not accounted for in there at all, which is why we had all the struggles that we had this past year with the preschool times.
Ms. Smith.
My understanding is that option A is what we have going on this year already. That there was no change with the option A. What we had said was when construction was done, we were going to go back to the pre-time, which was option B, which is what we had discussed last week. So, I mean, we get the reports, Mrs. Walton, you provide this to us nonstop throughout the year about buses, who's on time, who's late, well, it's 100%, some of these are 100% all the time, on time. So I'm a little confused at what's being said here, because we're talking about 1 minute different in the shift. My understanding was the shift, because the high school doesn't shift and the others do, that's where we were going to have an issue that could delay buses, and that we would have to look at that level. But the option A is what we have in place already this year, isn't that correct?
I don't quite understand yet. So the high school times haven't moved. We've just taken 15 minutes off of all the elementaries and the middles. So it's making it
Right.
for them
That's
to get
option
to
B.
right, for them to get to the high school, to the middles, we're cutting 15 minutes off of the bus runs.
Right, but to the point of what Durham is saying, is that even option A is an issue to them, and I'm asking, isn't option A what we have in place already?
When we started talking about this, they feel that to make it successful, they need 45 minutes in between each tier.
So the other thing is, just so I have this correct, with option B, it brought the elementaries, back 15 minutes. It brought the middle schools back 20 minutes. Did not bring the high school back. So you're going to potentially collide from high school to middle, and then trickle down middle to L to preschool, and then have it happen all over again.
Mike, can you put the,
So,
that's how, if you look at the left side is the new, how it would be. So all the reds are the buses that are going to be late with the times that we have them now, with the routes that they are now.
All right, thank you. I think Ms. Shea was next, then Ms. Feather, unless. But I have one question for everyone. If we've already voted on the options, how much more discussion do we need on it? I'm just asking,
we could discuss this more if you want, I think.
okay, I didn't know after you voted, the discussion was like, all right. So Ms. Shea, then Ms. Feather.
Just circling back to what was said about the minibuses, they're all used for special education and then also for kids that are coming in and out of their districts, right? And those are always at capacity? Okay. And I guess my concern also too is I know that we were just discussing with Durham about the North Cumberland Middle School situation with getting those kids on the bus and then getting down to an elementary school. But I'm concerned about where McCourt fits into that because there's about 75% of those kids are walkers. 75% of those kids at McCourt are walkers, and we don't have any buses in the district. So I don't see how. That's what I was. That's what I was told in the beginning of the school year.
I question, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying, being at McCourt and seeing the number of buses that we have, that's a lot. And that 75% seems like a very large number.
I'm at McCourt every morning, so I'm not challenging you.
No,
I'm just wondering
Neither am I just am
how
curious.
that time would conflict from McCourt and, of course, BF Norton in District 1 compared to all the other districts, I guess was my question.
Ms. Feather?
Couple of things. First of all, I do believe that we should have and we should use a registry of students who would like to, or parents who would like to sign themselves up for buses. The law, I've heard from actually a former school committee member, two former school committee members, that the law was passed in 2016, that we are allowed to provide for the number of students who have actually registered for the buses. However, after speaking with legal counsel, I do also know that we also do have to provide the option for reasonable transportation for folks who, when circumstances change throughout the year. My thought is, why are we not planning on, based on the actual number of students that are planning to ride the bus, why are we planning on the, one seat for every bottom? But are they all registering? Do we have a registry?
How does busing works by enrollment? I'm assuming outside the amount of miles that the policy states.
So any student who was registered at school who was outside the walking distance is registered for a bus. But
And-
there's also all the hazard roads that they're not allowed to
Right.
walk on, like Tower Hill, Little Pond County.
But, however, do we maintain any kind of list or ask parents to sign up for it?
No.
Okay. I think that the legislature allows us, and again, to do that. So would that be a cost savings for us if we were able to do that?
I don't think it would, because you still own the other kids. We have a map with red dots where the kids
Right.
live. Every kid gets a bus.
Right, but we're not legally required to do that based on the law that was passed in 2016.
So I think the risk in that is more, and it's what I shared with you
Yeah.
earlier, Carrie, Ms. Feather.
It's okay.
Is that I think operationalizing it and the lack of predictability of when a parent might say, just for next week, I need a bus. My child needs a bus because the number of circumstances that could come up that might require the district to adjust in real time in a way that perhaps the district cannot is what I'm thinking makes it difficult to do the opt-in option, which the registry reads like an opt-in option. But say you implement the registry and there are just 300 kiddos who don't register for the registry. And so the district does not plan for transportation for those kids. And then throughout the year, you have a third of those kiddos need transportation throughout the year. I think it gets difficult for the district to adjust. That's less a legal, that's less legal context. It's more what I imagine is what complicates it for the district to implement. But you're right that the law does allow for that registry. I just don't, implementation-wise is not what I have the context.
Might not be feasible, and I get that. I just don't think, and thank you very much. What I'm hearing is a lot of why we can't do things, And I want to just be mindful, to your point, we're still discussing this. And, it's something that we definitely want to try to do because educationally it makes sense for our students. So there are all these issues, there are all these problems that it's going to take a long time, it's going to take a lot of work and everything, but it's the right thing to do for our students at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Next, discussion and a vote to amend 2025-2026 budget. Mr. McGrath, Dr. Thornton?
I think per our last item, I think at a minimum, I would look at 150K up to 300 you have to account for now.
Is there, sorry, are there proposals from you all on what, or
There's nothing I could recommend you cut. I think we are cut to the bone, as you know. I think your only option is fund balance. I think also it's fluid because we just don't know until August 22nd-ish what it would be. But I'll defer to Mr. McGrath how he wants to tackle that.
I just want to remind you that this budget already has a structural deficit built in. We've talked about that multiple times. We're into fund balance, $1.2 million. We're looking at short money coming in on title. That's very concerning. So, any additional fund balance would just add to that. You have an increase in contractual obligations next year of 4%. So all these things are going to compound going into next year. So just keep that in mind. As Dr. Thornton said, I'm not aware of places to cut. If we were going to cut, we probably would have done it during the budget process previously. So yeah, at this point, you'd have to add it to fund balance.
I guess the question is operationally, would they add it now or wait till the final number comes out in August?
That's a good question. The one piece that I'm not totally sure on, I think if you go into your fund balance more, I believe that has to go back to town council because you're increasing the overall revenue use of the district. That's a question I'd have to ask the town, but you are at this point increasing your overall expenses, so I would think you would have to go back to the town and get that approval. I'm not sure of the logistics of that piece of it.
Thank you. Ms. Feather?
And my thought is that at the end of the day, we don't know. We don't know what these costs will be. At $92,000 a bus, if we had to add 2 buses, it's $180, so that's in between the $150 and $300. I don't think it's wise for us to make a budget decision now when we're not sure what that number is going to be.
I don't disagree. My concern is we have a district to open. We're going into September. We're going to be making purchases. At that point, you're not going to have any options to not purchase things. The bulk of the purchases of the district go through in the beginning of the fiscal year. You're not going to have the lever to pull to free spending per se to try and make up that gap. So I would be concerned going into the beginning of the year with that and not being able to have those levers to pull. Normally, a lot of these decisions around personnel and all that are made earlier on to allow the district to have flexibility to move positions around. We don't have that option at this point. You own all the positions you have. You own the title positions that may not be funded by the federal government, so there's predicaments there.
So, Mr. McGrath, if I'm hearing you correctly, we might have to go back to the town if we use fund balance, possibly.
I believe so. It's not like you're asking for an additional allocation from the town, but on the town's books, you are increasing your overall expenses.
When oh, sorry.
No, it's just, so when I look at it, I believe the town has to, I'm not sure the machinations of it because we haven't done it in the past. I would have to have a conversation with the mayor's office and the fiscal side. I'm just thinking that we would have to go back to them. It's not like we're asking for them to increase the revenue. We're just asking for permission to use additional fund balance. I'm not sure if that's something that has to happen. It's just something I would think might have to happen.
So with using, let's say it's $150,000 that we have to use for fund balance.
Correct.
What is the percentage we want to keep in fund balance, and how does that impact that percentage
I'd
according
have to
to our
look at
policy?
my overall spreadsheet. It really ends up, it depends on how we end up this fiscal year, if we end up using the full 2.2 of fund balance. We had a whole chart discussing that. I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it's between 4 and 6% needs to stay in fund balance. 2 and 4%, but then there's also classifications that are held encumbered, so there's different pieces to it on that. But I do have a whole slide that we did during the budget process on that. But once again, you have to, to me, it's not about using the fund balance as much as you need to think about, we talked about in fiscal a 5-year plan. Well, I already am concerned about this district just operationally, and I'm very concerned about title funding being pulled back, additional expenses. It's not just a Cumberland problem, it's across the state, but the Auditor General was out today at the RIASBO meeting discussing how 4 districts are going on deficit plans and working with the town to get through that stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if additional towns are doing that over the time, and we know that this district's already underfunded, so just something to think about.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, did you have? I thought you said, okay, Ms. Feather.
So, I don't know if this falls under budget, but is there any way that we can do any kind of push to get those students back from BVP? In order, because let's think about numbers. Let's think, how many kids will we need to come back from BVP to make up the 150?
Correct. I don't disagree. I'm not sure. There's also additional expenses associated with
Right.
bringing students back. That's also, there could also, the one thing with BVP I think about is, if you bring 30 kids back to the district, that's great, but if there's 30 kids that moved into the district that went to BVP, it might offset to 0. That's one of my concerns is the town does have growth, and it's such a shot in the dark to understand exactly what that number is, but you are correct. If the more kids you bring back, the better you are. But it's not dollar for dollar because there needs to be space in the given schools. You might need to add teachers to meet that. So there's those things to think about too. But I do agree that is a path.
Thank you. So discussion and a vote to amend 2025-2026 budget. The pleasure of the committee.
I don't believe we can vote on it at this time.
Okay, so we will table this. Discussion and or vote to approved amended policies. Ms. Feather.
All right, I have to get my bearings here. All right, so the first one is E2 transportation. Fun. Okay, so actually, wait, I have that one online. All right, E2 transportation. We changed a few things within this in order to be able to, ensure that, honestly, that the students who are supposed to be riding the bus are actually riding the bus, establishing the bus routes, and putting in, actually memorializing the requests for folks to request a bus after school has started. So one of the items that we added in here was to requests are accepted on a first come, first serve basis, and only if space is available on the bus requested. That had been something that we had in practice, but we had never put it into policy. So that is put into the policy. We also added in a parent or legal guardian must be present for a kindergarten student to be left off the bus, because that is also something that is quite necessary. So there are a few items in here that we added, and I would move passage.
Ms. Feather moves passage for E2 transportation. Do I have a second? Second or discuss, I'm so sorry, Ms. Smith.
It's already been put to move passage, but I don't think that the right one is available on the drive.
We think that the wrong one is available in the drive, I'm not
What,
sure.
I'm looking at one from today.
I know there is 2 places in the drive that it is in.
I'm looking at amendment draft 6/26/2025. Is that the one you're looking at? Can you hand them my computer? This one's also in the drive.
I think it's, I think it's under policy subcommittee. There was two places that they were in.
I think that it's not under the right drive then, because we did not see the amended. This does say amended, but I'm not seeing the kindergarten part in there.
I'm seeing that on mine. I have E2 Transportation Amendment Draft 6/26/2025. That's the one that's open right now, and that was in my drive. And that includes all the changes that we discussed, including the kindergarten students, and renumbering everything. So I've got 1, 2, and then 3 is the parent legal guardian one.
Does the other members of the committee see that in their drive? Mr. Beacon, you said you did see that one? Okay, thank you.
They put.
I'll be
so it
honest,
looks
my
like
computer
in the
is not
public-
on.
Thank you. It looks like in the public, so it, okay. Okay, so it does look like we need to put the one that I'm looking at, that in the public hearing folder, but I don't believe that that should change.
All right, so
us making those edits, making those changes.
I'm just going to ask a question.
It's
It is on, it's on the
an
public
administrative.
drive. It's in two different it's in two different folders. One folder is correct, the other public hearing folder is not correct. Is that still enough public notice in order to move passage?
There's notice on the agenda that it's being considered for amendments. And all of you as members of the committee and those of you who are members of the subcommittee have, if you all are in agreement that the version you're voting on is what you intend to vote on, then it's okay to vote on, but I'm looking at Steve.
We also never used to put these in.
In order to vote, I don't think you're required.
This will be done in July.
Okay, so we'll table to July, just.
I can withdraw my motion then.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out there. The subcommittee policy folder is available to the public, correct?
I don't know what is available to the public, what is not available to the public. I know that in the past, we never actually made these policies available. We actually voted to make them last year, was it, 2 years ago? That we voted to put things in ahead of time before the meetings and not after the meetings.
Ms. Smith?
And the reason I brought it up was because on the agenda for the public comment, on the public hearing for that, the one that's in the folder that's marked public hearing is the incorrect one. The other one is correct, but that one was incorrect, which is why I brought it up, because of the point that you just made, Mr. Adams. And we've had this happen before where we didn't give enough notice or correct notice for public hearing.
So we will table E2.
I withdraw my motion.
K2, use of school facilities, including use of facilities applications. Ms. Feather?
Okay, before I talk about anything with this, is the right one in the drive? Can I? Because I'm not going to waste my breath. All right. So, dear Lord. Okay, so what we did with this one is we actually worked together with the town to ensure that we added in some wording to ensure that folks who would like to use the school facilities are also getting properly licensed when needed from the town. We added in some items around the going to the town clerk and receiving licensing, specifically around food trucks and things like that. So in addition to some other administrative typo-ish type things, that's the major change that we made to this one, and I would move passage.
Ms. Feather moves passage for K2 use of school facilities, including use of facilities applications. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Bacon. All in favor? Oh my God, with discussion, I apologize. Thank you.
Am I set? Okay, sorry. We talked in policy and procedure about two things related to the form that I just wanted to make sure we had clarification, because I'm thinking about PTOs. On the use of school buildings, we talked about striking the under equipment needed, microphone and portable PA, and it is my understanding that PTOs are still able to use, they need to just contact their visits to the fire department. It'll be 2 visits to the police and 2 visits to the town.
We do believe they are subject to the same rules for the town. We can certainly, you could ask for a waiver from the town, but we believe they are subject to the same rules. So again, you could table this as well if you want to. That'd be fine.
Any other discussion? All right, Ms. Smith?
Dr. Thornton, it was the town clerk who asked for this to be put in, or the town to ask for this part to be put in. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if it's the town clerk, but I can say the town as a whole. I can't say which entity in the town, but the town.
So maybe we could go back and have that discussion just to reconfirm with them and bring up this
Yeah.
point.
Well, I believe we did confirm it through Melanie. The question is, would they want to change that position?
Okay, thank you.
So right now, we have a motion by Ms. Feather, a second by Mr. Bacon. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 6-1, with Ms. Goldstein being in the negative. Ms. Feather, G6, personnel benefit policy for non-unit administrative and support personnel.
Okay, ooh, sorry, I wasn't hearing the microphone. We made, just, again, some administrative changes to this. The Human Resources Manager position is now back to the Director of Human Resources title, and then also we allowed for the salary ranges for administrative positions to grow by the 3%, I believe it is. 3%? Thank you. So that our salary ranges will be actually accurate within those, our salaries will be able to be allocated as within the ranges. Did I say that correctly, Ms. Smith?
I believe you said it well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so those are the things that we did, and I would move passage.
Ms. Feather moves passage for G6. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 7-0.
May I just say congratulations, Mrs. Dresdick. This was definitely a title that you deserve.
Discussion and a vote to approve resolutions. Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to take my glasses off for this one because there's so many of them. So there are quite a few resolutions tonight. I want to start with the first, letter C, SCPR 06-2025-68. This is being tabled. So this will be taken out altogether. Then moving on to D, SCPR 06-2025-69. I had a question on the language inside of what they consider it to be the agreement, where number 4 inside of that says GEMS net districts when it relates to pay. However, I believe this is the individual pay for Cumberland. This is a collective contract with multiple school districts, and I believe the word each just needed to be added, but I did bring that to legal, so I'm going to let them speak.
Yeah, so we drafted language for a motion that would make clear that the Cumberland School Department, the contract amount with with the Cumberland School Department is specific to the 174,054.67.
So was that in number 4, or was it an amendment to number 4?
For number 4, nope, it's just the motion. So you don't have to amend, anything. It's just the way you approve the resolution. I'm going to give you the language. right now.
Okay, okay, I'm going to let you do that, Mrs. Gonzalez. I got it. Mhm. Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. Okay. So thank you very much, because I wanted to make sure that it was covered, just because I just felt that there was ambiguity when we discussed it. So this is going to take care of that. So I would like to talk and discuss SCPR 06-2025-69 as an individual before we go into all of the other resolutions. And on this one, as I stated, there was a concern that the wording may not have said that it was Cumberland's specific cost, and that it may have appeared to look like it's everyone's cost. So on this one, I want to make a motion to approve the GEMSNet contract, subject to confirmation from GEMSNet that the contract amount for the Cumberland School Department is for $174,054.67.
Ms. Smith makes a motion on SC-PR-06-2025-64, GEMS Net Partnership Renewal 2025 I think it's 2026, school year, University of Rhode Island, pending contract subject to confirmation from GEMS Net that the contract amount for the Cumberland School Department is for $174,054.67. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Shea, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to move to letter G, SCPR 06-2025-72. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, because I had so many notes written on my finance, I didn't realize we went from letters to numbers. So, okay, so it's number 7, SCPR 06-2025-72 is number 7. Okay, there was a minor adjustment that was needed to the fiscal page on this. It was said that there was an other note that RIDE may pay, or RIDE will pay 50% of this, or reimburse 50%. That is not known, that other note. We did make a motion to remove that, so I would like to make a motion to amend SCPR 06-2025-72 to remove the fiscal note, under fiscal note, other note concerning RIDE's 50% reimbursement.
Ms. Smith makes a motion to approve SC-PR-06-2025-72. Ms. Smith, help me with the rest. The 50%
Removal of the other note
removal of the other note
related to RIDE reimbursing 50%.
related to RIDE reimbursing 50%. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dean, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 7-0.
Okay, so now I'd like to make a motion to approve SCPR 06-2025-72 as amended.
Ms. Smith makes a motion to approve SC-PR-06-2025-72 as amended. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dean, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 7-0.
Okay, so now we're going to do all the other ones that are remaining as one lump. So bear with me on this one. We are taking numbers 1 and number 2, SCPR 06-2025-66-67. We are then taking let me go down to the number 5, SCPR 06-2025-70 and 71, the next one, number 6. We are then going down to number 8, SCPR 06-2025-73, all the way through number, is it 19? Number 20, SCPR 06-2025-85. All of these did pass fiscal subcommittee 3-0, and I would move passage of all of those noted.
Ms. Smith makes a motion to pass SC-PR-06-2025-66, along with SC-PR-06-2025-67, and then continued on to SC-PR-06-2025-70 and SC-PR-06-2025-71, moving on to SC-PR-06-2025-73 to SC-PR-06-2025-85. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Bacon, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 7-0. Next, discussion and a vote to approve payment of bills. Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for understanding all of that and bearing with us. This is what happens this time of year. The discussion and vote to approve payment of the bills, we had our one bill tonight for Chartwell's in the amount of $245,037.99. That did pass fiscal subcommittee 3-0, and I would move passage.
Ms. Smith moves passage to pass payment of bills in the amount of $245,037.99. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dean, all in favor? Any opposed? That passes 7-0. Dr. Thornton, do we need to go back into executive session? Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Bacon. Second by Ms. Shea. All in favor? Any opposed? We adjourn tonight at 8:48 PM.